I'm not sure how to describe it. How do I put it into words? I'm having a sense of deja vu. Because, it feels like just a few days ago I was telling you guys about Black News Channel and that these clowns were going to implode and not to be surprised when they announced they're throwing in the towel. Wait a minute. It was just a few days ago that I was telling you these clowns were going to throw in the towel. Bringing in billionaires like Shahid Khan in order to create these phony baloney black news organizations that are supposed to be the antidote to what the real black media is doing. This is not the time to slow down. This is the time to double down. As I told you about the Manhattan Institute, the bad guys may have these billionaire investors, but we've got two things that they don't have. We've got the truth and we've got you. And that's no small thing. You're the one who they're using all this money to try to deceive. They're setting up these phony front groups with the hope of deceiving you. You're the one who's going to decide whether or not they succeed or fail. If you don't listen to them, that's going to hurt them. When you listen to, support, and spread the word about the new voices of black media, that wounds them. So please don't underestimate the importance of the part that you play in all this. You're the prize that everyone is contending for. The bad guys are trying to make up for their complete lack of black support by trying to buy some black credibility in the form of a phony baloney black front group or 3 or 4. Send a message and make it a strong one. That when it comes to the black street, all that pale money is no good around here. So, as I told you, it would all come down to you. If you guys decide to pay these sock puppets no never mind, then they were finished. You're the ones who they were attempting to get the attention of, and you completely ignored them. And now what's happening is the pain setting in. Oh, whatever happened to all of those eyeballs that AT&T was going to just hand to them? Oh, the white media, we're going to hand you access to all of these homes. You ain't got to do nothing to actually earn it. We're going to hand it to you because when you're working for white supremacy, that's how they roll. That's how they do things. They just hand it to you. They pick and choose winners. We're going to pick who the winners are because white supremacy can do that. Yeah, except when black folks are on code, white supremacy doesn't win. Of course, Black News Channel is a front organization. What the hell else could they be? They were dreamt up by a black Republican who, up until then, had shamelessly run interference for all the GOP's racism. This news channel was being run by a white man, owned by a white man, is being funded by a billionaire Asian. Absolutely nothing about the people behind this phony baloney sock puppet organization is aligned with black people. All of their coverage, all of their commentary is about attacking black people. It's the same garbage you get from CNN and MSNBC. Oh, it's all about black and brown. And if you're talking about things that are going to be impacting black people, make sure you include everybody else. But when it comes time to give commentary about other ethnic groups, it's just about them alone. You never get that with any other media outlet that's geared toward any other demographic. You would never turn on Telemundo or turn on any of those Hispanic stations and see them putting forward black people's interests. They wouldn't be discussing black people at all. You wouldn't turn on Fox News and have them saying things that they know their audience doesn't believe. They cater to their audience. They give their audience what they want. They cater to them. If that's what you guys want to hear, that's what you're going to hear. But they come to black folks on their other hand. It's all about, well, we need to dictate to you guys what you're going to hear. You guys need to be educated. You need for us to tell you what to believe because we happen to know what's in your best interest. And what's in your best interest is whatever white supremacy needs. And we're going to hire a few of these bootlick cable cast-offs. A few of these anonymous goofballs that you might have seen on this or that panel, on this or that cable television station. We're going to go ahead and give these guys a little bit of make work, a token job or two. And surely you Negroes will fall for that. Why, you'll just be so happy to see some black folks in front of the camera, and they're going to be telling you, oh, we're about black empowerment. We're to a black audience, and black people's voices need to be heard, and you guys are going to fall for it, right? Wrong. Black people already had the 411 given to them by the black media, the real one. We understood that BNC was just another front group who hires some bootlick Negroes to stand out in front and be the face of the fraud. While you got non-black money paying for them to say things that are against our interests. Carrying the same old line of intersectionalism, and we're going to be putting together alliances. We're promoting everybody except for us. Hey, we had a mayor's election in Boston, 25% black city, 3 black candidates, all of them knocked out in the primaries. And instead, we're going to be having Asians, we're going to be having biracial white Eurasian women. They're going to be running for the mayor's office instead. And the black people, well, we're not really thinking about that. What we're thinking about is vote blue no matter who. Well, over here in the real black media, we could give less than a rip about blue or red. Over here, it's all about black. Because nobody else represents our interests, so we're going to be representing those interests aggressively. Now, although it was The Wrap who was pretty much the first to cotton onto this story, you had Byron Allen's LGBT advocacy website, The Griot, who also picked it up. Oh, you know those guys, they had to be hurting. Their headline, Black News Channel announces layoffs right before Christmas. They just cut and paste the exact same thing that The Wrap had on their website. I mean, these guys couldn't even bother to put something original up there. And this gives us all a very good idea of just how well things are going over at the Black News Channel. How successful are they being? They're having to lay folks off. And no, I'm not going to be making any tasteless jokes about people losing their jobs. That's not funny to me, and that part I don't appreciate, and I don't think it's a good thing at all. Now, according to The Wrap, BNC's got 300 some odd employees. It says roughly 300 people, so we don't know if that's roughly give or take, but I suppose it's academic, though it doesn't exactly say exactly how many people are getting their pink slip. This is a failing of the individual who owns BNC. It's a failure of management. I'm not saying that they wanted things to go this way, but it was, in fact, these people whose job it was to make sure that people had stable employment. It was their responsibility to make sure that their employees wouldn't unexpectedly find themselves home for the holidays. Now, as the Griot, oh, I'm sorry, I mean The Wrap, because they basically just cut and paste what The Wrap had already reported. Of all the 124 cable channels in 2021, BNC tied with Comedy.tv for second to last place, with an average of 4,000 viewers throughout the year, beating only BN Sports. So that's what BNC was doing in prime time. 4,000 for the entire freaking year. They've been on for over a year now, and 4,000 in prime time was all they could draw. That's it. That's the best that their all-star lineup of cable TV cast-offs could do. 4,000 in prime time. Man, I could throw a house party and draw more folks than that. Now, the Griot highlights a Twitter tweet where a Twitter user had posted that BNC is on the Fire Stick. How in the F are they unable to make a connection to the black audience to the tune of 4,000 viewers per when they have a black news channel on the Fire Stick? Yeah, you see, to them it's just, I don't understand. How come nobody's watching this stuff? I mean, how in the world do you not connect with a black audience? You can blame the content and the people presenting it. The reason why black folks ain't connected to it is because this is not connected to us. Real recognizes real. Yeah, there's a lot of black folks who are gullible, but the black people who these clowns are trying to mislead and trying to draw away are not among them. That's the problem that they get. We don't understand. We gave them a studio, and we had AT&T give us lots of coverage so people would know about it. How come it didn't work? How come they weren't fooled? It simply never occurred to them that the black audience they were hoping to draw away was simply too smart to watch this garbage. Now, I reported for you on the rise, such as it was, of BNC. Oh, the white media doing what it always does, pretending as if this is a big deal. Oh, a new player on the landscape. You don't have to listen to all those angry black folks on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook. Those angry black voices that you keep seeing. The ones who are telling you black empowerment, real black empowerment, not pretend black empowerment. The ones who are telling you about power, wealth, and influence and telling you that if it didn't come from them, don't listen to it. You ain't got to listen to them. Why, we've got some of these guys who you know. Hey, you remember Mark Lamont Schill, don't you? I mean, come on, you remember him, don't you? That's the game that they were playing. And they can't believe the black folks didn't fall for it because too many black folks up until this point have shown themselves to be gullible for it. And now they're getting worried. I'm sure that Byron Allen and his little propaganda mill, they're getting worried too. Now, of course, because the bootlick happens to be an auxiliary of white supremacy like their masters, they never take personal responsibility for their failures. It's never their fault. It's always someone else's. Always something else. These would-be defenders of the now deflating BNC, they tried to blame all of this layoffs and all this trouble on a lack of promotion. But that's just white media spin. The problem isn't that people didn't know about BNC. The problem was black people knew exactly what BNC is, and they don't like it. They don't want it. You're not going to sit here and just drop a couple of words, a little bit of new black media lingo. You're going to sit here and take one or two words you've heard us say, or you'll show up and pretend to be addressing the kind of things that we do, riding on our coattails, and you think to yourself that's all you got to do, and next thing you know, you pivot to, well, Bill Cosby, he should be in prison, he was all above board, and what's all this stuff about black empowerment? We need alliances here. We got to be looking at everybody, it's all about defeating racism, you see, racism, and we don't want to be alienating any allies. That garbage. Yeah, see, when you're talking this real black empowerment stuff, when people get a taste for real black empowerment, they see what the real thing tastes like, you ain't gonna show up with some little watered down, pretend bootleg version of it, and you think to yourself you're gonna get away with it just because you use one or two of our words. We are a hell of a lot more than just a little bit of lingo. We are a hell of a lot more than just one or two catchphrases or terms. That's what the Shahid Khans and that white man who owns BNC, and that's what clowns like J.C. Watts don't understand. To them, it's all media spin. The white media has had it their own way for so long. As far as they're concerned, they can invent reality out of whole cloth. All they got to do is just say something, just carpet bomb people with the appearances of or promotion for whatever, and people jump on board. They're used to it. As far as they're concerned, it's the golden blackjack that never fails, and that being the case, it's a guaranteed W. So they simply can't fathom why it's just not catching on. When you have Mark Lamont shill arguing for the incarceration of black men, arguing the exact same talking points and garbage that you get from the white media, and here he is deciding that he's going to be arguing with people who occupy this new voices of black media space, the only people who can give him legitimacy, because he damn sure didn't get it from the white media. If this is what this guy does, and this is the person who you like to have promoted the most, and he's the person that you think is going to be the star that you hitch your wagon to, that's the problem. Mark Lamont shill tried to run to the A-dunce crowd. As far as he was concerned, there was going to be an alternative to this black media audience. A number of white media outlets have attempted that exact same trick because they know a sock puppet organization when they see one, but that's just beating a dead horse. Mark Lamont shill may have gotten some views on YouTube, but it wasn't people supporting him. It was people who wanted to see Judge Joe Brown wreck him. Yeah, Mark Lamont shill got some views out of that, but it wasn't people who supported him. It wasn't people who looked at him and thought, oh, we like this Mark Lamont Hill guy. They tuned in because they wanted to see him get his butt handed to him. His videos showed a lot of black folks what BNC was, and it was a horrible advertisement for that little shill organization. People recognized it for just another white media sock puppet operation. Mark Lamont shill's success did more to cripple what little viewership they might have hoped to get than anything else. Because while shill was basically auditioning for a job on CNN or MSNBC, he's trying to get his old job back. He was making the few black people who were unfortunate enough to watch BNC want to puke. Now the white owner of BNC and the Asian investor may have liked what shill was saying, what the other bootlicks have said, prioritizing everyone except for black folks, but black people didn't like it. White media simply cannot afford to attack us directly, so they're trying to drown us in bootlicks again. This is why MSNBC has become almost a one-stop token job emporium for otherwise unemployable bootlicks. So the message from the black grassroots is simple and plain. When it comes to where we get our news and views, when it comes to real black media, we will not accept any substitute. You think to yourself that just because you have a back and forth with trash like Christopher Rufo, that somehow that's going to give you legitimacy? That's sprinkling sugar on crap. Black grassroots have already handed Christopher Rufo's behind to him, exposed that scumbag and the white money behind him, and we did a hell of a lot better. You see, over here, nobody's pining away hoping that they can get themselves a couple of speaking fees to be on a panel on CNN. Nobody over here is desperately hoping that MSNBC might have one more token Negro job slot open on the weekends. Nobody over here is hoping that now that Chris Cuomo's gotten the boot, that maybe there's going to be a show for us. I can tell you right now, you know Roly-Poly Martin, he's been sending in a doggone resume. Have you check out my YouTube channel? I've got me a few views, and y'all need to be give me a job. It is significant that we highlight this fact that the Black News Channel is already saying we got to lay folks off. This just ain't working. And the reason why is because you're not going with them. Do not underestimate how important your support or lack thereof is. Yours are the eyeballs and the ears that they're attempting to try to co-opt. Too many black folks have chosen to be sheep. But there happens to be a large number of us who have chosen to be lions. And that being the case, they're trying to see if they can bring in some bootlick lion tamers. That's what the job of Mark Lamont Schill and the Charles Blows and the rest of these clowns are. Oh, they're going to say something that sounds a little bit like what we say. Ooh, we're saying something about racism here. That don't mean a doggone thing. Because what happens is you're representing everybody else's interest except for ours. And doing a halfway doggone buck dance routine, that doesn't con us. Just because you don't put on both tap dancing shoes, or at least just because you don't do the full Mr. Bojangles buck dance, doesn't mean we look at you and go, well, it ain't as bad as all that. If the only time that you have on people who are actually in this space of the new black media, the only time you have folks like that on is to attack them, to impugn them, to say that these guys are wrong, or to otherwise to attack their viewpoint. Don't you know, fool, you're attacking the very viewpoint of the people that you desperately need. And the reason why is the black people who you see in places like this, these aren't the couch riding 8 hours a day smoking a joint, trying to hopefully get themselves some government money folks. These are black folks who own businesses or at the very least are gainfully employed. These are not the black folks who are sitting around who have nothing better to do with their time than to watch BET. These are the black folks who are actually interested in getting off their butts and making sure that they improve their own condition and that of their people. These are the black folks who actually spend money on things. That's the reason why you had Issa Rae with her little side show on YouTube that she was doing. And when she put up her GoFundMe or her crowdfunding, she got $50,000 and that was it. Meanwhile, you got TBA and Tariq. They do their crowdfundings, do double that easily. Double, triple, and quadruple that easily. You want to know why? It's because the swirlerati, the intersectionalist contingent, the zaddy worshippers, the divester nitwits, these people don't actually spend money on nothing because they like to just sit around all day in their dream world. So it's okay for HBO to offer Issa Rae a contract. She's not a threat to them, but she's not a big help to them either. The white media banks on and loves to promote black dysfunction, showing us and selling us on and encouraging us to take in and emulate just the most dysfunctional, idiosyncratic nonsense. This is how you try to derange a particular people's culture. And you get some Negroes who get out there and say, this is who we are, why, this is who we are. I'm defending blackness. This is who we are. No, this is the white media who has their hand up some sock puppets behind manipulating those scumbags to say that garbage. Well, we've shown BNC who we are. This is the reason why you got people like Goldie Taylor. She did her crowdfunding. By the way, did that little documentary of hers, that little crowdfunded documentary, did it ever come out? I guess I should say documentaries, because there was more than one. Also, you had Sean King. He was supposed to be doing his own media venture, I suppose. But at last count, apparently they had to lay some people off. Not that anybody has heard of what he's done. And I'm not going to be publicizing it because I got the same feeling about Sean King that a lot of folks do. But the point that I'm trying to make is you can tell the difference between grassroots and AstroTurf. The black folks who are actually going to get it done. And more importantly than that, they put all their chips on keeping it black. They're not trying to do any of this garbage where clearly let's focus on what unites us, which of course means everyone's problems are exactly the same and black people's concerns are no more pressing and hence no more important than anyone else's. So it's okay that black people can be deprioritized and put at the back of the line because everybody's got issues and it's all about class struggle and we're all fighting the same enemy and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's the kind of feel-good, innocuous, empty chatter that appeals to the Shahid Khans and the white media managers, and it appeals to the DNC types. And if you're on the good side of MSNBC and CNN or one of the online white media outlets like Huffington Post, that's the kind of thing they want to hear. But it's not what the black grassroots want to hear because it does not reflect reality. The reality is we are the group who built this country. And the wealth that we generate has been systematically kept away from us, and we have been targeted for abuse and murder and genocide in this country. Nobody else has. In fact, a lot of the other folk who the Mark Lamont Shills and others want to pretend that we should be allied with, they have in their turn taken sides with the people who have been oppressing and abusing us. They have no problem doing so. They think it's going to benefit them. Small benefits, as far as they're concerned, that's good enough. So BNC, a weapon of mass distraction campaign. They're already hemorrhaging. These guys are already taking on water. They're sinking. They've had to already throw some folks overboard. And what they're finding out is that being able to get black folks support, especially enough to turn you into a growing concern, you got to do a hell of a lot more than just some clickbait. Just because you put the word black in the title of your organization, or just because you have a couple of melanated Negroes in front of the camera doing the talking for you, that ain't good enough. People are going to be digging beneath the surface. We're going to be checking your paperwork because that's what we did to BNC. We checked their paperwork and your paperwork came back dirty. And speaking of dirty, that brings us to Kamala Harris and Charlemagne the Fraud. Charlemagne the Clod. Charlemagne the Clown. I forget what the hell his name is supposed to be, what highfalutin title he's bestowed upon himself. He's got himself a little show on Comedy Central. Well, that certainly makes all the sense in the world. I've always said that Charlemagne's a joke, though not a very funny one. Anyway, Charlemagne decided that he was going to have Kamala Harris on his show, and I couldn't help but notice that he sounds very different now than when he was yucking it up with Kamala a couple of years ago when he was on the Breakfast Schlubs. Well, I guess that's because Charlemagne's white media masters are different at Comedy Central than they were over on, whatever New York station that he and the rest of those clowns were on. White media is increasing the tempo for Biden to replace Kamala Harris. And Charlemagne the Clown, he's carrying out the orders that have been given to him. Go ahead and ask her a couple of pointed questions now just to put her on the defensive because we got to make sure that all of those black women, the few of them who might decide that they're soured on the Democratic Party if they don't see Kamala get the nomination in 4 years or 8 years, whatever the hell it is whenever she stumbles back into contention for the presidency again. Well, we got to make sure that we have a black face out there so we can say, see, it's not just white guys. And they made sure that he was the one who asked her directly about, who's really in charge? Is it Biden or is it Joe Manchin? Is it Joe Biden or Joe Manchin who's really president? Who's really calling the shots here? But of course, everybody knows what the subtext of that question is. How come you guys can't get anything done? That's the subtext. Everybody knows the elephant in the room is that Kamala Harris, she thinks to herself that she's going to be president, but there's a lot of folks who would prefer that she not be. The New York Times allowed a right-winger to write an op-ed that they published saying that Biden shouldn't run for re-election and he needs to say that he won't be running. And while he's at it, the Dems need to replace Kamala Harris. In fact, that was the entire point that the New York Times had in publishing that. That was the New York Times doing a little icebreaker for somebody to come out and say that. And now they've had Charlemagne the Fool, who's given his interview with her. By the way, did he say anything regarding reparations or anything about punishing the police? Hey, whatever happened to that lift every voice plan of yours? Does anyone remember him having asked Kamala Harris about that during his interview? Me neither. But he does ask her, who's the real president? Yeah, who's your daddy? That's what he was asking. Who's your daddy, Kamala? Who's your daddy? It's Joe Biden. And somewhere I'm sure that low-down Willie Brown is grimacing and going, well, she sure ain't as young and perky as she used to be, but back in the day, that was my office skank. I mean, that's probably what's going on right now. These twisted circles of power and disempowerment. But Kamala Harris understands, and this is just another shot across the bow against her, that there is an across-the-board white media consensus that is firming up and becoming more aggressive in saying Kamala needs to go. Haven't even finished their first year in office and already asking, so, Joe, when you going to be dumping Kamala Harris? You're not going to make it through your whole 4 years, and if you do, you dang sure ain't signing up for another 8 years of this. The American people, they're going to be looking at you, and they already thought that you were over the hill, and even the folks who couldn't stand Donald Trump, at the end of the day, they're going to be asking, can Joe Biden really handle another 4 years in office? And nobody's thinking that Kamala Harris should have the nuclear codes. So they're already starting to steady drumbeat. Somebody else needs to be in there. Oh, and by the way, before it's all over, expect to see Roly-Poly tear himself away from the buffet line at Western Sizzlin', and he'll be agreeing with them. He'll be saying, "Yeah, she definitely needs to, gotta go, because we can't risk it. It's too dangerous to let the Republicans win. We can't so all these Trump wannabes out here." That's what's going to be happening. No matter how tough he was pretending to talk, at the end of the day, he's a shill for whatever white leftist money he thinks he can get, whatever people he thinks are going to put him on. So as soon as Kamala Harris, assuming that things go to plan and she gets the boot within the next couple of years or so, expect to see Roly-Poly out there dropping all of that talk. He'll be the same one telling black women that, well, it just wasn't the right time and it's too dangerous and we may not like it, but don't worry, they're going to make a black woman Secretary of Transportation or something. That's what they're going to do. Black women will be getting a consolation prize, and he'll be the one saying that black women are fine with it. They understand that we got to sacrifice our interests for the greater glory of the Democratic Party. Same stuff that Van Jones was saying. Black folks got to take one for the team. And that's not a prediction. That's simply a recitation of what they've always done. Black folks always need to take one for the team. Except this isn't a team. Because with a team, you win together. Instead, it's we do all the work, and then they're the ones who run off with the trophy and the money. But my point is, it's slowly starting to dawn on Kamala Harris and some of these shea butter bootlicks out here. They're realizing that, no, you got played for a fool. And there is no tool that white supremacy does not break before it's all over. In Kamala Harris's case, they're going to be doing this mess publicly. And Kamala Harris calling herself literally wagging her finger at Charlemagne and saying, "Oh, you sound like a Republican." And blah, blah, blah. This is exactly what the white media likes to put on. Look at her. She's losing her temper. That's one of the things that they're going to be playing. You can expect to see this one played when whomever the Democrat who's going to primary her or whomever, expect to see them and the Republicans after them using this. They're going to be playing this as one of Kamala Harris's greatest hits. Does she have presidential temperament? So you can either have the version of Kamala Harris who's a giggling ditz, or you can have the version of Kamala Harris who is basically wagging her finger and acting dang near like a Karen. For a moment there, you half expect for Kamala to say, "Charlemagne, I want to talk to your manager." But it's no accident that that happened when it did, and the person who was the one who put her into an awkward position like that, that was no accident. Kamala Harris had a basic question that she needed to answer, and she showed that she couldn't. Because Kamala Harris has never had to. She's never actually had to answer any tough questions because she always had the California political machine who would run interference for her and make sure that she didn't have to answer any tough questions. Every position she's ever had was handed to her. She was not really elected to office. She was selected. That's our whole thing with low-down Willie Brown when he told Antonio Villaraigosa, don't be running for the Senate against Kamala Harris. Don't crowd Kamala. The fix was in for her. It's always been in for her. But at some point, Kamala's going to have to show that she at least had the ability to competently answer a question, and it just goes to prove that when somebody has never actually had to use their brain in all their lives, when somebody's never actually had to use their wits, when somebody's never actually had to rise to the challenge or take on some sort of hardship, when the hardship comes along, when the challenge comes calling, when their back is to the wall, they're going to crumble. They're going to start wagging their finger and getting all angry. They're going to start losing their cool at the slightest moment. That wasn't a good look for Kamala. But you know what? The white media and the Democratic establishment, they already knew this is what Kamala Harris would do. Put her back to the wall and she's going to start snapping at people. And now all of those stories about the discord going on in Kamala Harris's office, a lot of people looking at that and going, think we're starting to understand why there was so much rancor and dysfunction and confusion and enmity going on in the vice president's office, if this is how she acts during an interview. And a lot of the same folks who were ha-haing and hee-heeing with Kamala Harris just a couple of years ago, now they're the ones who are taking pot shots at her. They are the ones who are laying the groundwork for having her roll right out the White House. This is the reason why all these black bootlicks the white media keeps putting on. This is the reason why these guys have no problem stabbing the black community in the back. Hell, they do it to each other all the freaking time. Because being a bootlick is a career path that doesn't come with a retirement plan. It's catch as catch can. And you're basically swinging from one white paymaster to the next. Whoever the world it is you think is going to be giving you something, that's what you're going to be doing. The bootlicks don't show loyalty to each other because loyalty doesn't mean anything. It's all about advantage. It's all about trying to get yourself into a position where you can leverage a little something. But at the end of the day, for all these fools, their foundation rests upon whether or not they are able to corral and control a critical mass of black eyeballs. That ultimately is what the white media needs them to do. They need to demonstrate that they are able to get those black eyes to look at what they're doing and to follow what they say. That's the point. Can they influence black people to any appreciable degree? Are they able to control or at the very least influence the discourse within the black community? And I'm sure you've noticed that on Charlemagne's little show, they've given him a set that looks like he's on a discount version of Star Trek or something. I'm half expecting some guys in red shirts to show up, for Mr. Spock or somebody to say live long and prosper. That's what it looks like. It looks like a discount version of a Star Trek set. Like the Orville or something, I guess. So you got this guy who's not a comedian, but he's on Comedy Central. And his show is not a sci-fi show, but he's on what looks almost like a sci-fi set. Who the hell is this geared toward? Who the hell is this supposed to be for? Looks like all it is basically a resume enhancer for him. It's just adding something to the old resume. But what it's not adding is a worthwhile viewpoint. It's just more of the same. We're going to have Charlemagne doing what he's been doing for years in New York, which is attempting to dictate to young black people what they should think and what they ought to think about. Don't go getting tunnel vision. Keep sight of the big picture. Don't go getting yourself too attached to all that black stuff. There's lots of issues out here, big issues going on. Oh, black folks' issues are important because everybody's issues are important. To say that the system oppresses everyone, that's just the inverse of saying all lives matter. No, we need to stay laser focused. That's how we're going to be putting the pressure on. And all of those Biden and Kamala bots who thought to themselves that they were on the team, who thought to themselves that they had proven their muscle, they're being shown for the fools that they are. The idiots who were desperately hoping that BNC was going to prove itself to finally be the antidote. It was finally going to be counter-programming, substantive counter-programming for all of those angry black people online, all of those angry people that you see on YouTube, all of those people putting out those documentaries and information pieces that just keep on making people understand that white supremacy is the enemy and black people are the ones who should be prioritized here because we're the ones who have been deprioritized on every freaking freaking thing else. Well, hopefully we'll have somebody who'll say something else. Those guys make us uncomfortable. They tell us that all of our intersectionality is a pathetic luxury that we cannot afford. They're telling us that all of this allyship that we keep trying to find, these alliances we keep trying to form, are not going to happen, and we're holding hands with the very people who are propping up white supremacy. We don't want to hear that, and hopefully somebody here is going to finally counter-program and get black folks off of that. That's what the hope was with BNC. These guys are going to finally give the answer to the black media. Finally an answer to the black media. Well, it's been 1 year, just 1 year in, and these guys are already looking like they're ready to throw in the towel. Make no mistake, all these little bootlick organizations, they've seen what's happening to BNC. They all operate out of the same playbook. Some of them were able to get some white corporate funding, some commercial money, or their comedy shows get them a little black audience so they feel like their position is all right. But they understand that as more and more black people identify and reject these phony black stations that have been set up for the last 40 years or so, BNC won't be the only group of phonies forced to cut people loose. Oh yeah, they're finding out the hard way. It's one thing to tell black people that you're speaking for them, but now it's another thing entirely to get black people to believe it. Now, before I end this Sunday address, there is something that I think needs to definitely be taken care of. I'm sure that I speak for everyone who's part of the new voices of black media when I say that we only exist because of you. I personally have been at this for 15 or so years, and I'll tell you right now that my gratitude, my appreciation for your involvement and your encouragement all these years is abiding. Now, I'm somebody who basically has come to your attention simply because of the words that I say, but I find it very difficult to put into words exactly how much I appreciate what it is that you guys have done for the last 15 years. That's how I know exactly how important and how potent your involvement is. I also want to give special mention to those who have visited the Cash App. It's great to see a number of familiar names, a large number of familiar names, and I only think it fair to make sure that these people understand that their involvement and contribution has not gone unnoticed, and because of that, I think that if somebody does a little bit extra, they should be able to at the very least get a pat on the back. And that being the case, I'm not going to be mentioning this in any particular order, but basically some names who I do think need to be highlighted. Tiffany Montgomery, she's been on the front lines with us for a long time, so salute to you, sister. V. Vinny, also want to mention you. Miss Debbie, now there's someone who's been in the trenches with us for a long time. Salute to you, sister. Anthony Cooper, doing the most. Salute to you, brother. Moshe Ben Abraham, Detroit Beauty Supply. On a side note, I hope black women start going to other black women for their beauty supply needs. You buy that stuff from Korea and China and Asia, and it takes money out of the community, and you don't even know what's in that stuff. So when it comes to business, let's keep it in the family. I didn't want to rant, but I had to get that out. Eddie Newsom, now there's another of my longtime listeners. Salute to you, brother. Also, Black Boy Logic. Loke Thies, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Nyan Pharmacy, Maurice Soul, Alfonso Muhammad, Raymond Holland, Jay Thomas, Kinstrumentals, you know him, or at least you should. He's that very talented brother who came up with what I like to think of as the Coon National Anthem. Look at the Coons. He's got a YouTube channel, by the way. You can hear a lot more like that, and thank you to that brother in particular. I also want to mention Ogun Spirit as well. Love the name. Keitha Dixon, salute all day, every day to you, sister. And last but definitely not least, I feel like I would be committing black empowerment malfeasance if I didn't mention Dee Tubman. Everybody's familiar with Dee Tubman's name because Dee does everything that she can to support what it is that we're doing. So I want to make sure that we recognize all of our everyday heroes and sheroes when it comes to helping to signal boost the message of the black media. And there's some others too. I'm not naming people in any particular order, but I do want to make sure that I at least start saying some names at the very least. I want you all to know that I salute each and every one of you. And don't worry if your name didn't get mentioned this time. I intend to be doing this on a regular basis, so everyone will get their salute. So in the meanwhile, you make sure you keep your power tools at the ready, keep your head on a swivel, and keep your eyes and ears on the black media.